We continue with our Discernment of Spirits Mondays, and we're now at the last three rules. Last time we talked about Rule 12, standing firm at the beginnings, right? We kind of talked about this image of a spoiled child, that if at the beginning you're kind of firm with a child, it just kind of comes down, and if not, then he just starts throwing a temper tantrum, and it's just things become really difficult, and to kind of reining the child becomes really hard. It's the same with the enemy, right? It's kind of like a snowball effect. If the snowball is too big, it's too hard to stop. But when it's small, you can stop it fairly firmly, very more easily. And so that's what we want to do, right? When the Lord, not when the Lord, when the enemy begins to tempt us or give us ideas that are not good, or our thoughts that are going to lead us into desolation. Today we begin Rule 13. Which we could title Breaking the Spiritual Silence. So I'm going to go ahead and read Rule 13, Breaking the Spiritual Silence. 13th Rule. The 13th. Likewise, the enemy conducts himself as a false lover, in wishing to remain secret and not be revealed. For a dissolute man, who speaking with evil intention makes dishonorable advances to a daughter of a good father, or to a wife of a good husband, wishes his words and persuasions to be secret, and the contrary displeases him very much. When the daughter reveals to her father, or the wife to her husband, his false words and depraved intention, because he easily perceives that he will not be able to succeed with the undertaking begun. In the same way, when the enemy of human nature brings his wiles and persuasions to the just soul, he wishes and desires that they be received and kept in secret. But when one reveals them to one's good confessor, or to another spiritual person who knows his deceits and malicious designs, it weighs on him very much, because he perceives that he will not be able to succeed with the malicious undertaking he has begun, since his manifest deceits have been revealed. This is a very crucial and important rule just for the spiritual life, right? The enemy is kind of like a false lover, and so he wants things to be kept secret. He wants us to remain silent about the lies that he's feeding us, or the temptations we're experiencing, right? He wants us silent and isolated, alone, because that way he can't defeat us. So some signs of the actions of the enemy are: you must not speak about this interior trouble. Speak about anything, but not about this interior trouble. You share this with anybody, they'll be so shocked. They will not like you anymore. They're going to judge you. It's going to be too painful. There's something wrong with you. Like this you're experiencing, there's something wrong with you. You're the only person that's ever experienced this. You shouldn't share this. Or maybe there's this sense of like, yeah, maybe I can share this. And then you're like, yeah, but it's too hard. Reach out to this friend. I'm gonna be such an inconvenience. It's just better that I keep it to myself. It's just too hard to talk to this trusted person that perhaps could help me, but it's just too hard to coordinate. I'm gonna be a burden, etc. Right? All ideas from the enemy, so that he's able to achieve what he wants: keep you isolated and to keep you silent and not sharing this trouble that's in your heart. But we got to do the contrary, which is not keep it silent and not keep it just to ourselves. But what does Ignatius suggest? He says, when one reveals them to one's good confessor, or to another spiritual person who knows his deceits and malicious designs, right? So it's good to find a person, right? It says a good confessor or a spiritual person. The qualification here is who knows his deceits and malicious designs. So sharing this with somebody who knows a little bit about the spiritual life. Um, it may not be enough, says Father Gallagher, just find a spiritual person. It has to be, again, somebody who also understands a little bit of how the enemy works, one who knows his deceits and malicious designs, because there could be a very, well-intended spiritual person who just doesn't understand how the enemy works. Perhaps you go to your spiritual friend and you tell him, hey, I don't experience God's presence anymore. And they'll say, well, it's probably because you've done a horrible sin. And maybe they're very well intended, right? But they don't know that maybe it's just because you're going through some desolation that has nothing to do with anything you've done, right? And so, right. So what Ignatius suggests is one's good confessor or a spiritual person, a friend, kind of is somewhat aware of kind of how the enemy works. Um, Either way, too, just in my own personal experience. Um, there's a power in saying things out loud to somebody else, even if they're not going to give you any advice. There's something about bringing things to the light that really defeats the enemy. He works again in darkness, in isolation, and when we share the spiritual friend, even if they can't give us much advice because they're not, knowledgeable or whatever, it really can help defeat the enemy. So this is rule 13th, breaking the spiritual silence.